Hi everyone, my warm greetings to all of you and I welcome you all to the Apti Plus IAS platform. So let's get started with the discussion. So in the today's video, we are going to take the discussion of the editorials that were published in the Hindu and Indian Express newspaper on Thursday, Friday and Saturday. Also guys, in these particular videos, we are not just going to discuss the editorials, we are going to discuss the detailed background, concept and the way forward also for the article so that it can help you in writing good quality answers for the mains examination. So let's get started. The first article that we are going to discuss today is Fact Over Fiction, and this particular article was published in the Indian Express newspaper. And this particular article is talking about the usage of artificial intelligence in the recent elections, that is the election to 18th Lok Sabha that has got concluded. And a large number of political parties, they have used AI, artificial intelligence, in these particular elections. Now, this AI that has been used in the 2024 election, it is just a beginning. Just imagine the scale of AI that will be there in the next 5 years, in the next coming 2029 elections. So let's understand the usage of AI in this particular election. Now, initially there were the concerns in the elections with respect to the AI generated misinformation and disinformation campaigns. Now, let's say I had right information. I distort that particular information and then I spread. And I know that this is wrong information, but still I'm spreading it. This is a spread of disinformation. Now, with the AI, misinformation and disinformation's spread, its dissemination can increase manifold. How? You see this particular thing, that what can be done today with the help of AI, artificial intelligence. There are the basically fake videos, there are the deep fakes that can be prepared. In these deep fakes, leaders, the politicians, they can be shown that they are saying certain things which actually they have not done, and by that their credibility can be impacted. Also, when we talk about the AI, there is one concept, that is the liar's dividend. Now, what is this liar's dividend? Suppose there is some kind of a leader whose video has been leaked in public, and in that video he is doing certain things or saying certain things which are not good, which are not good. Now, this is something that has happened. This is something that has happened. Now, let's say that that video was actually true video. That video was true. In reality, that person has read that. But what will happen? This person will say in the public that I was not that person. That is actually a fake video. That is actually a fake video. That is actually a deep fake. This is called as liar's dividend. So even in the instances where the occurrence was right, it was legit, it will be rebuffed as fake. It will be rebuffed as a work of AI. This is the liar's dividend. So therefore, AI has a lot of potential to disseminate the misinformation and disinformation. And in these elections, a lot of AI generated mis and disinformation was found. Now, first of all, guys, when we talk about the AI, so AI generated media that was used in the recent elections was in the form of voice clones, okay, videos, audio messages by certain leaders. Calls were made by the political parties by the usage of AI. Now, how the calls will be made? So basically, suppose a leader gave a message in Hindi language. Now, with the help of AI, with the help of AI, that particular message will be converted in multiple languages. Okay, and the pitch, tempo, voice, texture of the leader would be maintained. Now, when we talk about the translations, what happened? Often in the translation, pitch, tempo, texture of the voice, it gets distorted, but AI, it will be kept intact. So, for generating voice clones, for generating videos, okay, for generating cartoons, for audio messages, AI was largely used. And political parties, what they have done, they have spent around $50 million on AI based technologies in the recent elections, and next election that will come in 2029, we can be sure that this number will go manifold. This number will go manifold. Now, AI generated content in your native language, regional language, it is used to ignite emotional appeal. Now, let's say prime ministerial candidate giving you a message in your own regional language, in your own local language, talking about your local issues. Now, this suddenly ignites an emotional relation, emotional bond, emotional connect. But actually, that leader never said that. All that was generated by the use of AI. So today, what can be done? Virtual avatars, AI avatars of the people can be made. Okay, and they can They can talk about the content in regional languages without fatigue. Also, what happened? So resurrected messages from certain diseased politicians were also used. Now there are the politicians who have died in the past, but they have a lot of hold in the public. They have a lot of emotional hold in the public. Fine. Leaders such as Karunanidhi, leaders such as Jayalalitha. Okay. So messages from them were resurrected by the usage of AI. By the usage of AI. Fine. Now, when we talk about the AI usage, we also find that AI was used differently in rural as well as urban areas. AI was used differently in rural as well as urban areas. Let's understand this thing. Now, when we talk about the rural areas, in rural areas, less sophisticated AI usage was seen. Largely in rural areas, old-fashioned cartoons were made by using AI. Okay, doctored content was made by using AI. Fine. Now, when we talk about, guys, this was a largely usage in the AI. And also when we talk about the AI in this particular election, though $50 billion were spent, but actually it was not that much. And also when we talk about the fact checking, so fact checking revealed minimal AI generated misinformation. Only 4% of the fact checks, only 4% of the fact checks, they involved AI content. So AI content was not that much in quantity, and even the AI content, when we talk about the fact checking, AI content was not used for a lot of misinformation and disinformation till this election. But by the time next election will come, 2029 will come, there might be a possibility that it will increase manyfold because of the rapid technological developments and advancements that are happening. Now, in this particular line, guys, we have certain startups which are working on AI technology, such as Polymath Solution, Muonium AI. Now, you can use their example as a case study. They have pledged that they will only be going for the ethical usage of AI. Ethical usage of AI. They'll not make applications on AI which might spread misinformation or might harm the democracy in any way. But all startups might not be like this. Might not be like this. Okay. So what we need to do? Fine, we need to ensure that the regulatory environment that's there, it should not profuse the unethical AI. Okay, so what can be way forward here? What can be way forward here in this particular direction? Let's understand that way forward. Just a minute. Okay, now when we talk about the way forward, number one, when we talk about the AI can improve the, can help in individualized communication. Individualized communication. Now understand this particular thing, that one particular reader, one particular leader might not talk about the entire range of issues. And often what happens, citizens in democracy, they feel that they are not being included. But with the help of AI generated content, with the help of the AI avatars, what can be done? Issues plaguing the entire country can be discussed. What I can do? AI avatar of a leader can be made, and that particular leader is addressing the issues of your area. Citizens feel more connected. So AI can improve individualized communication, and through this individualized communication, democracy can be made more inclusive by the AI. Also, when we talk about the AI communication, one thing is there, that today when we talk about the AI communication, it is more one way, leader to citizen. But we need to ensure that this AI communication becomes a two-way, not leader to citizen, but there should be some mechanism where the, now see, when you see a video on YouTube, you can comment, you can give your feedback. In the same way, AI generated content that it is raising to the citizens, on that also there should be some mechanism to give feedback. There's a mechanism to give feedback. So this is something that can be there, that can be done. The next thing is that we also need to strengthen the ethical AI use framework. We also need to strengthen the ethical AI use framework. So as we have seen the case study of Polymath AI, which have taken the pledge to not to use AI for unethical things. In the same way, we need to promote ethical AI practices, and we need to nudge the startups that they also join the ethical coalitions. They also join these particular ethical pledges. Next, we need to increase the digital literacy in rural areas, so that the people understand that what is AI generated content and what is the content which is not generated by AI. Now, why users need to know this particular distinction? So that misinformation and disinformation can be arrested. Fine. Also, this particular AI can be used for providing even the government services in local languages. Now, as AI is being used in the government campaigns, why AI should be restricted in government campaigns? these particular lessons can be used to improve the ease of governance, to ease of governance. Then moving on. Now, there are some global best practices also that we have. So there are the global think tanks such as the Busola TAC, Popvox Foundation. Fine. Now they are exploring that how AI can be used in governance. So we can also learn from these particular think tanks, and can adopt the usage of AI in governance, can adopt the ethical usage of AI in election, so that we are better prepared for next elections that are approaching. So this is about this particular entire article. I hope guys that you have understood it. And now moving on to the next article. Moving on to the next article. Okay. China's gray zone warfare tactics against Taiwan. Now, this particular article was taken from Hindu newspaper, and will take it with respect to the GS paper number 2, International Affairs. GS paper number 2, International Affairs. Now, first of all, before going in this particular article, let's understand some basic background information, and then we'll go in the details. Now, see this particular thing, that when we talk about the China, so China follows one China principle. And as per this one China principle, China maintains that Taiwan is not an independent country. China says that the Taiwan is not an independent country. Taiwan is intrinsic part of the mainland China, People's Republic of China. And also China says that one day China will reintegrate Taiwan with itself. China will reintegrate Taiwan with itself, and for that, even if they need force, they'll use it. For that, even if they'll use the force, they will need it. Fine. They say that even if we need even if they need force, they will use it. They say this particular thing. Okay, one thing. Now, basically, Taiwan, even in Taiwan, there are two factions that we have. One faction is positive for the Chinese association. They want to get reintegrated with China, and other section, they want to maintain they want to maintain an independent path. They want to maintain an independent path. Okay, this is something that is going on there. Now, China uses this gray zone warfare against the Taiwan. Now, what is this gray zone warfare that the China is using against Taiwan? Fine, let's understand this. So basically, when we talk about this gray zone warfare, it includes using psychological, ideological, and economic measures, economic strategies that the China is using against Vietnam rather than direct military confrontation. So direct military confrontation is expensive. Direct military confrontation is expensive. So rather than using direct military confrontation, what they are doing? They're psychologically manipulating the people of Taiwan. They're using economic measures. Let's understand this particular thing through the help of certain examples. So basically, guys, what happened recently? China's PLA, Eastern Theater Command, they released a 3D animation, and this 3D animation was depicting a missile attack on Taipei, fine, Taipei and Kaohsiung. Now, this missile attack was depicted, let's say, on Taipei, which is the major center in the Taiwan. By that, what they are doing? They are trying to ignite the fear in the mind of the people of Taiwan, that if you will support if you will support the independence of Taiwan, we might launch a missile attack on Taiwan, and this destruction, devastation will happen in Taiwan. So what is happening? Fear is being ignited in the minds of the people, so that the people don't support the pro-independence movement in Taiwan. What they are doing? They are using the psychological strategies. They are going for the psychological manipulation of the people. Also, what is happening? PLA, they send their fighter jets, unmanned aerial vehicles, strategic aircrafts near the Taiwan. So often what they are doing in the basically in the air defense zone of the Taiwan, in the airspace of Taiwan, continuously China sends their aircraft. They spends their naval ships around the Taiwan. Why? In order to put again a psychological pressure on Taiwan. Fine. So this is something that's happening. This is something that's happening. Then next is there, what is happening? So basically also Beijing, China, they uses propaganda within the Taiwan. and they try to influence public opinion. Now see this particular thing, that suppose, now see guys, see this particular thing, that suppose you are advocating for a particular cause, and I convince you that the cause that you are advocating, there is not even a 0.1% chance that that particular cause will be achieved. What will happen? A demotivation will come in your mind. So China, what they do, they continuously use a propaganda, and this propaganda is something like this, that what happened recently, a Chinese drone, they dropped flyers on the Kianmen Island saying that Taiwan independence is a dead end. Whatever you do, you can never achieve independence. So to break the morale, to break the motivation, propaganda is being used. This is also a part of the Chinese gray zone warfare. So what they are doing? Fine. Also, they are initiating public discussions and they are garnering support for the China. So what they are doing, basically China, they are now talking a lot about the patriotism. And what is patriotism? Patriotism is not saying anything with respect against the Communist Party of China, and patriotism is not talking about the independence from China. This is the patriotism according to the China, and they are promoting this patriotism even on Taiwan. Okay, so this is again one of an example that the China is doing. Then carrot and stick approach. Carrot and stick approach. So carrots for Kuomintang. Now Kuomintang is a political faction which is more inclined towards the China. So Kuomintang, with that the China is engaging and they are giving a lot of supports. But at the same time, Democratic Progressive Party, which is more inclined towards the independence, okay, they are being imposed with economic coercion. Okay, suspension of preferential tax rates, fine, on 134 chemical imports. Okay, so basically the trade that is going on between the Taiwan and China, a lot of custom duties, a lot of custom taxes are being imposed on the Taiwan. So economic coercion is being used against the Democratic Progressive Party. The leaders of the Democratic Progressive Party, they are being isolated, they are being sidelined. Okay, all this thing is going on. Now, what can be way forward? What can be suggestions that can be used by the Taiwan so that they can fight with this psychological warfare, so that they can fight with this gray warfare of China? So, number one, Taiwan should enhance its own defense system. Taiwan should enhance its own defense system so that they counter the continuous PLAs. Now, see, continuous aircrafts, continuous UAVs that are entering in the air defense zone of Taiwan. So, to counter them, they should invest in their defense capabilities. Now, guys, when we talk about the Taiwan has invested a lot in their air defense so that they are prepared if China is ever getting a marine attack on Taiwan. So they need to secure the Taiwan Strait that is there between the China and Taiwan. Second, second that is needed to be done is that, fine, Taiwan needs to invest on the robust information campaign within the Taiwan so that they can counter the Chinese propaganda. So already we have discussed this particular thing, that the China, they're investing a lot on propaganda where they are manipulating the people of Taiwan that the independence is dead end. They are trying to promote the Chinese ideals on the people of Taiwan. So understand this particular thing, that antidote of misinformation or wrong information or manipulation is more information. So Taiwan should also invest in their own information broadcasting mechanism. The next is the economic resilience. Economic resilience. So what is to be done? What is to be done? Taiwan need to diversify the trade and economic dependencies. So today Taiwan is a lot dependent on China with respect to its trade. Taiwan need to search the other partners. Now understand this thing. Right now when we talk about the US, right now when we talk about the US is already moving towards the decoupling and de-risking strategy. And as a part of this decoupling and de-risking, US wants to reduce its dependence on the China. Also, when we talk about, guys, the USA wants to politically and economically contain China. So basically, US is more than willing to support Taiwan in this particular direction. So Western allies can be the ones which the Taiwan can explore. However, it might be dangerous for the Taiwan also. So Taiwan, with the calculated risk-taking approach, should assess that what can be the more allies towards whom Taiwan can look forward. Fine. Then next is encourage dialogue between Taiwan's political parties. Now, I told you that some of the political sections in the Taiwan, they have a more pro approach towards the China. They are more inclined towards the China. Some parties, they are promoting independence. So these differentiated approach, This kind of a this kind of a bifurcation is not appreciable. So a unison needs to be there. A unified front should be kept forward. Also, to strengthen internal laws, fine, such as the anti-infiltration law, fine. So basically, what is to be done? Fine. So the people. So basically, on internal security also, the Taiwan needs to work so that such kind of a campaign, such kind of a propagandas of China might be countered. So this is something that should be taken, that should be worked by the Taiwan. So I hope that you have understood about this particular article. And now moving to next article. One more chance. Now this particular article is again from the Hindu newspaper. And what this particular article talks about? So this particular article is actually talking about recently what happened. First of all, before going in this article will be important for GS paper number 2 IR, GS paper number 2 IR, International Affairs. Now guys, you see this particular thing that since October 2023, there is a war that is going on between the Hamas and Israel. Now in this particular war, what has happened? Israel, they have carried a lot of attacks on Gaza Strip. But up till now, Hamas has not been eliminated. And in fact, these are the children, women in the Gaza Strip region that are bearing all the burnt. These are the children who are facing all the burnt. Fine. Around more than 37,000 people have died in Gaza Strip, and majority of them were the women and children. So point that comes here, is that we need to find out a peace plan between Israel and Hamas so that the people of Gaza don't suffer. Now, when we talk about US, for a very long period of time, USA's strategy was simple and straightforward. That is, they had they had a unbroken support to Israel. But now we find this particular thing that the USA, it is it that the USA, it is little bit changing its foreign policy. USA is little bit changing its foreign policy, and now USA is asking Israel that they have to consider for a peace plan. And recently, what happened? US President Joe Biden presented a three-phase ceasefire plan, for Gaza region. And even US for this three-phase ceasefire plan has got a support from United Nations Security Council. Now, what is this three-phase ceasefire plan between the Hamas and Israel? So, this particular plan includes number one, phase one, 6 week ceasefire, 6 week ceasefire by both sides, that is the Hamas as well as Israel. Meanwhile, what will happen? Israeli troops will withdraw from the populated areas in the Gaza Strip. So, ceasefire, neither the Hamas will attack nor the Israel will attack, and the troops will go back. Israeli troops will go back from the populated areas of the Gaza. And what will happen then? There will be the increased aid to Gaza. Medical aid, humanitarian aid, food aid, more aid will be given to the Gaza. Meanwhile, there will be the prisoner exchange that will happen. Prisoner exchange will happen from both the sides. This is phase one. After this phase one, then the phase two. What is phase two? Remaining hostage is released by Hamas. Now you see this particular thing. Hamas, they have taken the Israeli hostages. Fine, Hamas have taken Israeli hostages. So what will happen? The hostages of Israel will be released by Hamas, and Israel in return will withdraw from Gaza Strip. Now phase one. Phase one was this, that they will withdraw from the populated area. Phase one was to withdraw from populated area. Phase two is to withdraw. Phase two is withdraw from the entire Gaza Strip. Then phase three, reconstruction of Gaza. Phase three involves the reconstruction of Gaza. So this is the three-phase plan that has been advocated by Joe Biden. Okay. Now, when we talk about the UNSC, United Nations Security Council, is calling for both Israel as well as Hamas that they should accept this particular ceasefire plan. And also the US supports the resolution, fine, emphasizing that Israel has agreed to the plan. Fine. So point is that even the US says that okay, even Israel has accepted this particular plan. Now, only thing that is becoming an obstacle is the Hamas. Only thing that is becoming an obstacle is Hamas. Now you see this particular thing. First of all, we need to consider that why Israel is now adopting a soft approach. First of all, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is facing a political pressure. For example, Benny Gantz, who played an important role in unity government of Israel, he has withdrawn. Then also what is happening? Fine, he has withdrawn. Far right coalitions, far right coalition partners, their position is different. Their position is that they don't want any compromise with the Hamas. So Israel is actually confused. Israel is actually confused. Okay. Now, when we talk about the Hamas, so basically Hamas has certain demands, and Hamas says that until and unless these demands are fulfilled, they'll not withdraw. They'll not agree to those 3-point peace plan. Now, what is the Hamas's demands? Demand number one: immediate Israeli withdrawal from Rafah crossings with Egypt. So Rafah crossing is a crossing between the Gaza Strip and Egypt. Now this particular crossing, fine, it has been blocked. So immediate withdrawal from the Rafah crossing, freedom to choose Palestinian prisoners to be released. So if you remember, there was the prisoner exchange plan. So they want that we'll choose that which prisoner are to be released first. And guarantees from China, Russia, Turkey for a final set agreement with the Israel. That Israel will not walk in mid between. Israel will not walk mid between. So they want a guarantee from China, Russia, Turkey, who are more supportive of Hamas Palestinian cause. So they want a guarantee from them. Okay, this is something that has happened. Okay, this is something that has happened, and we see this since the war began in 2023. I told you already, 37,000 plus people, they have died. And it is very much important. It is very much important that immediately this particular plan should be made, should be implemented. Now, what is way forward in this particular approach? What should be the suggestions that can be given? Number one is negotiation and compromise. So understand this thing that as I have told you that more than 30,000 people have died. So immediately both Israel and Hamas, they need to prioritize negotiations so that the humanitarian crisis that is going on should be averted. Also, mutual interest, mutual interest should be recognized, and prolonged conflict is to be avoided because it is not helping both of the sides. So some mindset changes are needed. Some mindset changes are needed. Number one mindset change is they both need to recognize, the respective goals. They both need to recognize that the war needs to be ended. Okay, devastating impact of war should be recognized by both of them. Okay, fine, international guarantees should be considered. China, Russia, Turkey should come forward and should give international guarantee because Hamas is one which is insisting on them. Then Netanyahu, fine, should balance political pressures within. Okay, for example, now here which type of political pressure they are talking about? The right-wing coalition partners. Right-wing coalition partners, what they are doing? These right-wing coalition partners, they are pressurizing that no compromise should be there with the Hamas. They are actually becoming an obstacle. So these kind of pressures that are being imposed, they should be managed. They should be managed. Then immediate steps should be taken to protect the civilian lives and to provide the humanitarian aid to Gaza. So Israel should not restrict these particular aids that are going towards the Gaza. This is, guys, all about it. Now, moving on in this particular direction to the next article. A far right swing in European Parliament. A far right swing in European Parliament. Now, this particular article is taken from the Hindu newspaper, and this article will take with respect to the GS paper number 2, polity and related issues. Now, first of all, guys, when we talk about the world politics, we find this particular thing that the far right political parties, just a minute. Okay, so we find this particular thing that far right political parties. Now, when we talk about the far right political parties, now far right political parties often they have certain traits. Number one, they are ultra nationalist. They are ultra nationalist. They often happen to be radically conservative. They often happen to be radically conservative. They support the status quo. They support the status quo. Okay, so such kind of a political parties, they have become more prevalent in the political landscape, fine, even in Asia and even around the world. So recently, guys, we found this particular thing that elections too. So far right parties, they have gained significant victory in recent European Parliament elections. Now understand this thing, though center right bloc have retained its majority status, but far right political parties which are ultra nationalist, which support the status quo, which are radically conservative, these particular parties, they have got a huge vote share. They have got a huge vote share. For example, in France, Marie Le Pen's Reassemblement National Party, they won 31.5% of vote and got 30 seats out of the 81 seats. Okay. Then in Germany, far right alternative for Deutschland, they secured 16% of the vote. Okay. So likewise, guys, here are multiple examples from France, Germany, then Italy. So Brothers of Italy party, they have also captured a huge vote. All these are the far right political parties. All these are the far right political parties, and what is happening? They are getting huge majorities. They are getting huge support from the people. Okay, and they are getting more and more number of their popularity is actually increasing. Now, when we talk about, guys, these far right parties, it has been said that often what happen, they first of all, these particular parties, because they are not accommodative, often these parties tend to be unaccommodative. So because of this, often there is a concern when these parties become a they gain more popularity. Now see this thing, that what are the factors for the far right political parties becoming more relevant and becoming more popular in Europe. Number one, post COVID-19 economic challenges. So post COVID-19, there is an economic slump that has come. And during that economic slumps, what happened? People, they have become delusioned from the existing political parties. So center right political parties, leftist political parties, whatever they were there in the Europe, which were active during the time of COVID or post COVID, they have not been able to contain the economic crisis. So therefore, what happened? A kind of an anti-incumbency, a kind of a negative attitude towards those parties have developed. Okay. Then farmers protests are going on. Okay, Russia's invasion of Ukraine is going on, which has led to a cost of living crisis. Now see this thing, the existing political parties, they have failed to contain this Russia Ukraine war. They have failed to contain the economic crisis that came. Today farmers, they are facing the agrarian crisis in Europe. So because of that, what has happened? There is a kind of an aversion from ruling establishment. Also, there is Euroscepticism, populism, anti-immigration sentiments that have come. So immigrants that have come from the other countries, okay, they are just being seen as a nuisance by the people today. And as I told you that the far right political parties, they tend to be ultra nationalist. Okay, and majority of these parties, they have said that we are going to solve this problem of immigrants that are coming. So far right political parties, okay, they are more populist. Populist means basically those parties which design policies to appease people. So far right political parties tend to be more populist. Okay. So today, guys, what is happening? The entire unified entity of the Euro identity that we have, even that particular identity is being questioned. Okay. So point is that far right political parties, they say that we have population, we have solution towards this immigration issue, we have solution towards this COVID-19 economic crisis, we have solution towards basically the cost of living that has increased. So today the far right political parties are offering these particular solutions, and therefore they have become more popular. Okay. Shift in voter priorities in Germany towards peace, social security, immigration, the same issues that are there. Now, also, guys, European Union, it is coming out towards the climate policy. Now, see, when we talk about European Union has a goal of becoming carbon neutral by 2050. And it is coming out with many policies. Now, these particular policies are being seen as anti-developmental. How anti-development? Now, you see this particular thing, that today Europe has planned to make agriculture carbon neutral. Now understand these particular thing, these interventions will be costly in short to medium term. And as these intervention will be costly in short to medium terms, resources will be diverted. And at the end of the day, what will happen? The people who are poor, they will face losses. Fine. So because of these particular things, the far right political parties in Europe, they have become more relevant in the present times. So I hope that you have understood it. And now moving on to the next article. The invisible worker. Now, this particular article will see will take with respect to GS paper number 2, diaspora and related issues. GS paper number 2, diaspora and related issues. Now, you all might have followed this particular development. What happened? So recently, there was a fire incident that broke out in Kuwait. And in this particular fire incident, what happened? 49 people died, which included more than 40 Indians. And out of that, majority of them were from Kerala. Now, you see this particular thing that 49 people died in this particular building fire. And when further reports came, it was found that the people were living here in deplorable conditions. People here were living in very poor conditions. People here were living in very poor, deplorable conditions. And guys, again and again, what has happened when we talk about the blue collar workers of India that are migrating to the Gulf countries, particularly, they work there, but their living conditions are very poor. Their living conditions are very poor. Even the migrant workers in the countries such as Qatar, Dubai, fine, they also are facing very poor conditions. Now, when we talk about this particular fire incident in Kuwait, it is a part of a broader pattern of unsafe living conditions. Part of the broader pattern of unsafe living conditions, deplorable conditions that are there. Okay. Also, in the aftermath of Qatar World Cup, Dubai Expo, these particular issues were highlighted. That on one hand, these countries boast world-class infrastructure. On one hand, they are now trying to compete with the Western countries, but on another hand, living conditions are very poor. Human rights violations still happen here. Now, you see this particular thing, guys, that first of all, when we talk about workers in these Gulf countries, they live in cramped, unsafe environments. Fine, ventilation is not there. Ventilation is not there. Often because of that, they become too susceptible to the communicable diseases. In the aftermath of COVID-19, these unsanitary living conditions, they came in the news. Also, another thing is that there is also the lack of data and visibility. There are no proper data that what is the condition of these people that are living. Okay, so migrant workers data on their health, data on their safety, fine, it is most of the time missing. It is most of the time missing. Fine. Now, when we talk about these particular workers, according to Kerala migration survey, Kerala migration survey, 2.2 million people have migrated from Kerala only. 2.2 million people have migrated from Kerala, and majority of these people, 80% of these people are receiving in the GCC. Fine, in the GCC countries, in the Gulf countries, these 80% people are living, and majority of them are blue collar workers. They are working in unorganized sector, hazardous condition. Now, when we talk about these particular workers, they involve in a particular type of a occupation, that is the low skill jobs, and in these low skill jobs, they have low bargaining power. They face exploitative labor conditions, limited to no rights, limited to no rights. And even the majority of the countries in GCC, Gulf Cooperation Council, majority of the countries, they don't even recognize the permanent residency. Permanent residency is not an option for these particular workers, but still they are working there. Okay. Now, when we talk about these migrants, now for India, these migrants have an economic value. How these migrants have an economic value? What happens? They are sending valuable remittances to India. They are sending valuable remittances to India. And in fact, because of the remittances that they send, India happens to be one of the largest recipient of remittances that are coming. Now, this needs to be changed. Now, this needs to be changed. Number one, today when we talk about India, India needs to leverage its position as a major migrant sending country to negotiate the favorable terms of living for these particular migrant people. Now, India today is a major sender for major sender of migrants. That is true, and therefore these countries, GCC countries, have a lot of dependency on India. So, what India needs to do? India needs to strengthen the existing memorandum of understanding. India needs to sign the bilateral and multilateral agreements with these countries that they will secure the basic living. They'll secure the human rights. All such kind of a things needs to be done. Also, at the national level, we need to work on migration database. Okay, we need to have a comprehensive data with respect to the migration, with respect to the migrant population. For example, country where they are migrating, what is the working condition in those countries, whether they are getting proper accommodation or not, whether they are getting proper health care or not, whether they are getting the basic hygiene there or not. So national level database are also to be prepared. Then the next is there should be regular updates, comprehensive data collection. The next is there should be the focus on migrant well-being. Rather than seeing them as the ones who send the economic remittances, they should be seen as individual having their own rights, their own needs. Okay, this is something that is to be done. Also, what can be done? International collaborations will be done with the NGOs, with the organization that are working for the human rights preservation, and through these particular kind of an initiatives, the basic rights and dignities of the workers working in the GCC countries should be respected. Now moving on to the next article, heat waves as a disaster. Heat waves as disaster. Now this particular article was published in Indian Express newspaper. Now what this particular article is talking about? This particular article is talking about the heat wave incidents. Now recently you might have already seen in the newspaper that so many deaths have happened because of the heat waves. Now as with the passing year, heat waves are becoming more severe. Fine, it is emerging out as a natural disaster. Now, first of all, where this particular article will be important, with respect to GS paper number 3, disaster management. Fine. This article will be important with respect to the GS paper number 3, disaster management. Now, when we talk about the heat waves right now, heat waves are not included as a notified disaster under the Disaster Management Act. Now, why it is not recognized as a notified disaster? What is a notified disaster? What benefits will be there if some disaster is recognized as a notified disaster? So all these particular things we are going to see here. Okay, now see this thing. So disaster management act is the principal act that deals with the disasters and the remedies to reduce disasters, rehabilitation in the face of disasters. So we have the Disaster Management Act, and this Disaster Management Act was enacted post 1999 super cyclone that came in Odisha and 2004 tsunami that came. Now, under the Disaster Management Act, states, they are allowed to withdraw the money from National Disaster Response Fund and State Disaster Response Fund if there is a notified disaster that came. Okay, so see this thing. In the case of a notified disaster, states can withdraw money from NDRF and SDRF, that is the National Disaster Response Fund and State Disaster Response Fund. Now, these two funds are created under the Disaster Management Act. Now, when we talk about the NDRF, entire money in the NDRF, it comes from the central government. When we talk about the SDRF, 25% money in the SDRF fund, it is contributed by the states, and remaining money, that is 75%, it is contributed by the center. However, if it is a special category state, by the way, already special category issue we have discussed. So if it is a special category state, in the example, in a special category state, what will happen? Those states will contribute 10%, then 90% will be contributed by the center. So anyhow, majority of money that is flowing in these particular funds, it is from the center in the case of NDRF as well as SDRF. Now the states, they can withdraw money. From the NDRF and SDRF if there is a notified disaster that has happened. Now first they have to use money from SDRF. If the disaster is so huge that money from SDRF will not suffice, then they can also use money from the NDRF. Now, when we talk about the NDRF, in financial year 23-24, only two states, that is the Sikkim and Himachal Pradesh, they withdrew money from NDRF. That is the National Disaster Response Fund. Now, under Disaster Management Act, there are the notified disasters. And if there are notified disasters, only in the case of those disasters, money can be withdrawn. Now, when we talk about the notified disasters, so what are the notified disasters? 12 disasters are notified disasters. That is cyclone, drought, earthquake, fire, flood, tsunami, hailstorm, landslides, avalanche, cloudburst, pest attack, frost and cold wave. These are the notified disease. Heat waves have not been included as a notified disease. Why? Because their occurrence and their severity has actually become a concern in last 15 years only. And that is why, because the global warming that is coming. Okay. Today heat waves are exposing more and more people to heat related risk. It is having an impact on economic activities today. Today you see that delivery workers, gig workers, they cannot go out and work because of these severe heat waves. So it is leading to economic vulnerability of these particular people. Today 23 states in India are vulnerable for heat waves, to heat waves. They are preparing the heat action plan. These states want money because of the vulnerability of heat wave that they are having, and but because the heat waves are not notified as a notified disaster in the DM Act, they cannot get access to money under the NDRF and SDRF. Okay, so states, they say that they need money for developing shaded spaces, for making cold water availability, for rescheduling, for implementing the modified working hours. But we cannot do that. Why we cannot do that? Because we don't have money, and for money we need NDRF and SDRF assistance, and for NDRF and SDRF a disaster needs to be a notified disaster. Okay, so this is something that's there. Now so basically Finance Commission over the years has been reluctant. But since 15th Finance Commission, what has happened? Finance Commission has provided that the states that they can use up to 10% of the SDRF funding for the heat waves. But heat waves again have been recognized just as a local disaster. Local disaster. Fine. And the states such as the Haryana, UP, Odisha, Kerala, they have added heat waves as a local disaster using this provision. And but as it is declared as a local disaster, only 10% of the funding can be used. Now they want that this cap should be removed. Recognized heat waves as a full-fledged disaster, not just as a local disaster. This is something that is fine. So I hope that you have understood it. Okay. Now also there are some practical difficulties that are there. Now see this thing. When we talk about the notified disaster, when a notified disaster is there, so the people who are died because of that particular notified disaster, so 4 lakh rupees compensation is given. Now, point is that so many people are dying. 500 people have died because of heat-related deaths this year only. Is it possible to give this high compensation? Is it possible to give this particular compensation to those so many people? Also, often, basically, you see that how to attribute a death, that whether it was because of the heat-related incidents or some other incident. Suppose a person got a cardiac arrest. Let's say a person got dehydrated because of heat stroke and then he died. Now, how you will classify that this particular death is because of the heat, or that death was because of some other underlying condition? So that brings some kind of a practical difficulties attributing death to specifically to the heat incidents. So therefore, we need to follow a multi-pronged approach. Now, what is this multi-pronged approach? Step number one, gradually we need to integrate heat waves into the notified disaster list, as we have done, as 15th Finance Commission provided that 10% of funding can be given. So gradually it need to be integrated as a full-fledged notified disaster. Allow states more flexibility in using the disaster fund for heat wave management. Fine, don't put some tab on the states that how they can use this particular money. States should strengthen the heat action plan, and there should be better monitoring, data collection, so we can better understand the heat impact and we can better prepared with this particular how to deal with the heat. Okay, heat waves. Okay, the next thing that comes here is that also healthcare intervention should be done, so that pre-existing condition. Okay, now see, there are many pre-existing conditions that can be exacerbated because of the heat wave. Certain people are more vulnerable to heat waves. So for that particular thing, adequate healthcare intervention need to be done. Awareness need to be given to the people. Healthcare providers are to be better trained to identify and treat heat wave related illnesses. Okay. Then also what is needed to be done? We need to review the funding under the SDRF and NDRF, and we need to bring some kind of, see, we need to bring certain kind of mechanisms that the disasters which are not notified, they should also be included, and gradually, fine, from local disaster, heat wave need to be included as a full-fledged disaster. So this is something that is needed in this particular direction. Okay, this is something that is needed in this particular direction. Fine. Okay, so that is all, guys, which is needed in this particular direction. So I hope that you have all understood about this particular issue. So with this, this particular section is fine. I hope you have understood it.